Hello everybody and welcome to Deep Blue Sea, the podcast. I am Jay Clowett.
And I am Mark Hoffmeyer. And joining us is someone who has written about the undeniable greatness of Deep Blue Sea. It's Kaitlin McNabb.
Hi, thanks for having me. What an intro.
Oh, well, thanks. We saw this article online when we were looking for guests for this podcast. And I was like, yeah, we got to have Kate on. Because this is a massive, wonderful think piece that you can find on medium.com. We'll include it in the article. I was flipping through the article, and the opening graphic is LL Cool J from his Deepest Bluest video with his arms wide open and kind of like a Christ-like pose. Over him, it says, "Who is Jesus?" He has a halo, and then you have Russell Franklin and Frankenstein to his right and left, and then three sharks. It's beautiful.
I mean, like I've said, it encapsulates the movie and my thoughts about it. So
Kate, you've written a lot about shark films, like the Sharkometer series that you've written about. Like, what about shark movies do you love? What got you into Deep Blue Sea?
That's a good question. I think ever since I was a kid, I've always loved sharks. I've been always incredibly fascinated by them. I think I've spoken before about when I was growing up, we were lucky enough to have a pool. We used to watch Jaws and then go swimming every time he ate someone.
Oh.
And my dad used to pretend, he did that thing where, sharks are coming out of the drain, and he would come, and it sounds really horrible, but it was funny. He would pull us under the water, and it was this whole thing. So I think I've just always had a fascination with sharks. I love them. And specifically with Deep Blue Sea, I go back to the beginning for me. I remember when it came out, I don't think I saw it in theaters because I had a bad experience with seeing Jurassic Park in theaters where I got really scared and had to fake the air conditioning being cold so that I could sit in the middle between my parents because I was convinced raptors were going to come out and get us. But I remember renting Deep Blue Sea from our local video store and watching it endlessly and just loving it because at that time in 1999, like there wasn't really any shark movies. Like there were, I think the last one was Deep Blood in 1989. And before that was probably the last Jaws 4 movie. So there was this sort of dearth of shark movies for a long time. And then all of a sudden Deep Blue Sea came out and it was this big, flashy, amazing shark movie. And as we know, sort of kicked off everything and reigniting the genre. And it was so fun to watch. And I remember we had moved shortly after we rented that movie. And I remember I was supposed to pack up the family room and I saw our rental copy of Deep Blue Sea. And I remember picking it up and putting it in the box and just being like, it'll seem like an accident. And then we moved across the country and my mom opened it up and was like, oh, I guess we forgot to return this movie. And so we still have the VHS of Deep Blue Sea. But so I think it's a mix of just childhood fascination. Sharks are so incredible, but also just this I don't know, it's shark movie. I'm always on board for a shark movie, I'll say. It takes a bit of them for me to not want to watch them, I suppose. So.
Oh, I love it. You moved cross country with a stolen copy of Deep Blue Sea.
We still have it. Don't tell Jumbo Video in London, Ontario, but we still have it. So
you'll get a bill.
Yeah. And I think within I started this, I mean, you guys are again so generous to call it this official series, but I started writing about shark movies more for a writing process thing, and also I was tired of sort of reading reviews about shark movies that either compared them back to Jaws over and over again, or, you're better than Jaws, and it's like, nothing's better than Jaws, guys. Like, come on, let's be real. But also just wanting to do something a little bit different, and so creating this rubric based on Jaws to theoretically judge other movies, but now it's sort of taken on a mind of its own. And within that process of researching a lot of shark movies and Deep Blue Sea itself, it sort of revealed new things to me. And I have watched this movie probably the most out of any shark movie, and it's always revealing new things to me. Even on this last watch, I just watched it the other day for the podcast, and still it's new things are coming, and I still find enjoyment. And I feel like that's really rare in a movie to hold your attention for so long. So
I love it. As of 2018, you've watched it 75 times. So now is it 76 or is it 84? Where are you at with this movie? How many times have you watched it?
I feel like we're at least over 100 now. I have this one friend, Michelle Sisa. She's great. She's a great writer. Every time we see each other, because we haven't lived in the same country or even place for the longest time. We watched Deep Blue Sea together, and we always talked about starting up a podcast dissecting the religion in Deep Blue Sea, and we never did, and maybe we will, who knows. But so we always watch it when we're together, and probably literally anytime somebody is like, Deep Blue Sea, I've never seen that, or they're like, oh, that's a campy movie, I'm like, you sit down right now and we're gonna watch it. And like during the pandemic, a lot of people were doing movie clubs, and my friend started one that was Good Friends, Bad Movies, and they did Deep Blue Sea, which was great. I was excited to watch it, but of course the entire time I was like, this isn't a bad movie. It's not a good bad movie. It's not a fun bad movie. It's a good movie. So I feel like with the amount of times that I've watched it, I've also sort of deepened my excitement of it, but also my theory that it's just a good movie,
You linked to that Ringer article where they said that it works as a good bad movie in there with the criteria. Mm-hmm. And I get what they're going for, and basically any promotion of Deep Blue Sea is cool with me. Like Shea Serrano in his book, movies, and other things, he writes about it a lot. But like, yeah, I'm glad you wrote that. This is not. I'm just happy that there's other people out there that are saying it's not good bad. It's just good. It makes me so happy.
Well, I feel like there's a lot, especially with like creature feature movies, and for horror movies for a long time, and I think now we're seeing that change with, the Get Outs, the Hereditaries, the Midsommers. They're getting more prestige, I guess you could say, which is great, but horror movies have always been great, and there's such a large variety of them, but I feel like creature features, and especially shark movies, are always sort of cast in this like campy B movie, winking fun, blah, blah, blah. And it's not true. And I think that's one of the main things that I absolutely love about Deep Blue Sea is that, Rennie Harlin, full stop. Gotta love Rennie. But also how much intention he brought to this movie. Like he wanted to make a serious blockbuster horror movie like Jurassic Park, like The Exorcist, and he wanted to make something to rival Jaws, which always makes me laugh. And, he brought that intention. He wasn't winking at it. He's like, we're going to do this blockbuster movie. It's going to be great. And it was, and I think people wrongly assume a lot of the time that he was winking at something or, he knew that it was crazy. But I think Rennie Harlin himself is a little bit weird, which is why a lot of this movie is bonkers. But it's because I don't know, but it's just like this movie is made with intention. And I think that's why it has lasted for so long. Like, he was always acting in service of this movie. Whether it was, getting a new part for Samuel L. Jackson or like the main star of the scene we're going to talk about, LL, being like, wow, this guy's great. Like, let's really use him. Or like, making Thomas Jane swim with real sharks. He always acted in service of this movie. And to me, makes it great. We don't need to couch it under because it's fun and ridiculous that it's bad. Like it's well made, and if you enjoy it, that's fine. It can be good. Ridiculous movies can be good.
I love that you said that though, because in this scene, I've watched this movie so many times for this podcast, and I was working in a movie theater when it came out, and I've just watched it endlessly. But during this scene, what I appreciate most, right, and what Rennie does, and I'm also going to say Paul W.S. Anderson does it. He makes his actors do a lot of the stunts. He makes his actors do a lot of stunts. Like Rennie Harlin puts his actors like Gina Davis, Stallone, and Cliffhanger. You see them hanging. Like he really, it's nice seeing their faces. It's nice seeing people fist fight on a plane, like in Die Hard 2. You're like, geez Louise. But what I liked in this scene, it's LL Cool J in a shark's mouth. It's just, you can see it's LL or it's Preacher in this. And there's just a neat analog feel that you can see his face in there. You can see him being pulled. And that's added to, I think, a timeless sort of, we were talking about Anaconda, right? There's some scenes in Anaconda where the CGI is pretty soul-crushing. It's a beautiful movie. But to see LL in this shark's mouth and then to be stabbing an actual eye that they made for the production, it just makes it still look good. I didn't breathe for a couple minutes while watching this, prepping for this. I was just watching the scene. I was like, I got to remember to breathe because it's so tense the way they shot it. Like even the swimming to the surface of the ocean, the different angles, like kind of straight on, then from below, the way they shot it. Like it's a tense scene. And I think it's, like you said, it's Harlan just putting in the work in service of the movie.
Absolutely. To me, this scene sort of epitomizes Rennie Harlin's filming style. Like in my piece, I talk about there's this great writer, Drew Taylor, who described Harlan's filming style as action movie. And I feel like that's so accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of don't give him maybe the kudos that he deserves in actual technique. You know, Spielberg in Jaws does, you know, the dolly zooms, you know, I'm blanking on some of the things, but he has a lot of like different interesting techniques. But I think for this scene and a lot of the scenes, what's so great that you see with Harlan is that he crafts these moments of action, and it's that suspense that you're talking about, but it's almost like a vignette. But it's insane that literally 3 minutes before this movie ends, you are still so invested and you're still surprised about what's happening. Like, it's like Face Off, you know, like it just never relents, and you're still in. Like, I was still dialed into the scene. Yeah, seeing LL be ripped across the water, he still goes for it. And it's a testament to sort of the bonkers last third of this movie where he just goes all in. So
what would a John Woo Deep Blue Sea movie look like?
Oh my God, there'd be so many doves,
yes.
number one.
It'd be 3 genetically modified doves instead of sharks. They're trying to get down from the top of an aviary instead of up from the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, it would, yeah. Or it'd be like, you know, in Piranha 2, where it's like a flying piranha, so it'd be like a flying dove shark or something like that. And like a lot more slow-mo.
And gun fu.
Yeah.
Would the sharks and doves know how to use guns?
I mean, they recognize them.
Kung Fu, oh God. I recently watched...
That's a bad word. You know what? I shouldn't have said that. That's very reductive. That's just a term I grew up in. I should call it like gun ballet.
But I believe that's what he calls it. Because I recently watched because we're in a pandemic, all of the Mission Impossibles in like 2 days, which was great. I mean, I don't know. I really liked it.
It ends well.
It ends well, begins well. Again, still, that scene where Tom Cruise sends one email and then is just absolutely exhausted is like the most relatable thing I've ever seen on screen. But yeah, number 2 is really bad, but you know, the kung fu is there and it looks great. And I do believe that's what he calls it. So
now I want to watch Hard Boiled again. I think that's
always a good time.
Top 10 action film of all time. I would put it right there.
Yeah.
And I would walk away. I don't know why I'd walk away from
in slow motion with an explosion going off behind you.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa, and a toothpick?
Yeah.
Candlelight.
And a baby in an arm.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You know what's interesting? You brought up a point, and we've covered a lot. We've talked about Rennie Harlan a lot on the podcast, but Jay, we've never tackled this where you kind of talked about his style being action, and I started going through his filmography again. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I know there's the Die Hard 2 shot when he gets shot up in the air with the fire, like the flame bursting. But for me, I've never looked at a Rennie Harlan shot and just thought, wow. Like, look at the framing of that or the way he uses his aspect ratio. Now, it's all brilliant. He understands it all and he knows how to shoot it. But I think he just thinks in terms of the set pieces and the action and servicing that and not creating a shot that will sort of knock you off your socks. Am I wrong here? I'm just thinking maybe it's excellent how he shoots the action, but I've never... Like, it isn't a Malick film with The New World, with Colin Farrell traversing in swamps.
Yeah, I'd say that there isn't a trademark Rennie Harlan style.
Ah.
I think when you watch a film, I don't think you can... If somebody watching half of his films, you couldn't then present them with, I don't know, Exorcist the beginning, and they would guess that it's a Rennie Harlan film. Just from the direction and the camera work.
But you know what's interesting? But then we started talking about like meat and potatoes. So when I taught film before the pandemic, I taught my students who were learning a lot of camera work. I just said, hey, meat and potatoes, just get the basic shots because you're learning. You should know the framing, know the shots first before you start acting. You know, before everyone thinks they're, you know, filming The Graduate with the first time they touch a camera. You know, just get a shot and have the camera on and record it. And I guess what I like about Harlan, the more I think about Deep Blue Sea, is the way he frames it really maximizes the action. He knows the overhead shots. He knows the underhead shots. He gives you the location. And so I guess even though I guess he doesn't have a visual style, but I guess, is that because he's always been in service of the action? Does that make sense?
It does.
Oh, it's good. There was this moment I watched this movie with my husband who watched it with me, even though he's seen it literally thousands of times with me. He's a good sport. With the Samuel L. Jackson scene, where I never realized that he doesn't do it in a wide shot. And you'd think for a surprise moment like that, you would pull out so it's even more, you know, you see it happening.